Atma Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Pranic Healing Podcast. And on this episode, we'll give you a deep breakdown of the meditation on twin hearts, which is the staple core meditation that is practiced in the pranic healing system and Arhatic yoga system for various reasons. And our guest speaker today is Dr. Ursula Lentini. So Dr. Lentini is a pranic healer, pranic healing instructor, Arhatic yoga practitioner, and she also does internal family systems work. So please welcome Dr. Lentini.
Dr. Jason, so nice to be with you. I really appreciate all your presence and the way you show up and your intelligence and just bringing your personal quality to the pranic healing community and the work you do. And just you have such a beautiful heart full of service, and
Oh,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate and
Thank
respect
you.
you.
I thank you so much, Dr. Lentini. And
Thank you.
I echo that back to you because you have a big job for us today in explaining meditation on twin hearts. And I can think of no better person to describe it because you've been practicing this meditation for so long and teaching and spreading the benefits of meditation on twin hearts. But before we kind of get inside the world of meditation on twin hearts, I know you've been a meditator for a long time yourself. So can you kind of describe your journey, um, beginning with meditation, but your journey leading into meditation on twin hearts? Because I think for a lot of people, Dr. Lentini, they're wondering, oh, well, I already have a meditation practice, right? So what inspired you to make that jump to twin hearts from your meditation practice?
I started meditating when I was 18 years old, and I've done so many meditations, TM, Vipassana, which is a 10-day silent meditation, uh, you know, walking meditation, this meditation, that breathing meditation, all of them. And when I discovered Twin Hearts meditation, I already had so much experience that I understood the value of the ability to get into a state of meditation and stay there for an extended period. Because most of the time, meditation, you're in, you're out, you're never in. The whole session goes by, and you're like, well, I failed at that one. And here you are trying to do something good for yourself. And then you leave. You're like, oh, I'll never be any good at anything. But the meditation on twin hearts, I feel successful because it really brings me there and it helps me focus. And that's why I love meditation, twin hearts meditation so much, is because I've got some history, years of history to compare it to.
Mm, that's so beautiful because what you described, Dr. Lentini, is what 99% of people experience with meditation, right? You can start, but there's no grounding almost. It's almost like you're kind of waiting for something to pick you up versus meditation on twin hearts is a structured practice, which we'll get into, but it really has so many benefits. And, all the meditation practices that you've done for so many years, they're significant too. A lot of people find benefits in it. But Twin Hearts being so simple takes it up a notch in our personal opinion. So, getting into the topic of Twin Hearts meditation now, can you give us a bird's eye view of what this meditation is and what it's about? Just a simple bird's eye view.
This is an act of service. So when people come, I say we're doing an act of service. So if you have any credits you need to do, you could almost count them, because we're blessing the entire planet. There's nothing on there that we're bless everybody except for them. No, we're blessing everybody. So it increases our capacity to have compassion. And if I said, hey, come do this thing for your own self, people would be like, oh, I'm busy. But if I say, hey, the planet needs some help, everyone's like, okay, what do you need me to do? So I'm always understanding and looking at Master Cho and saying, God, he's so brilliant. He knew, come on, I need some help. Will you come and help? And then everybody comes to help. But in the way he does it, we end up getting the blessings because we're giving the blessings, and the blessings are coming through us in order to give. So he's like, how can I get them? And we're like, oh, bless that and then that. So there's a circular energy that's happening. And the more we do the meditation, the more we are receptive to the good in the meditation. And it's the easiest meditation to do, guided meditation. Everyone tries to like, oh, I'm going to meditate. And they go for the hardest one, the silent meditation, the hardest possible. And they say, oh, I can't do it. No, you're doing the hardest one. That's like trying to run the Olympics instead of go for a walk around your block. So it's simple, it's easy, it's enjoyable. There's a win. All you have to do is show up. It's, you're not required to do anything, and no one knows how much talking you're doing. Like, it doesn't matter. There's no ability to judge. The fact that you showed up is enough. You will get the benefits.
Mm. Yeah, and speaking of Master Choa, and Master Choa is really a scientist at heart, in addition to being a great spiritual teacher and synthesizing energy healing, but also arhatic yoga. But this meditation is another foundational piece of Master Choa's teachings, and I love what you said because it's an act of service, right? And as we know, it's in giving that you receive, and you spoke about the benefits, right? So before we jump into the steps to the meditation itself, can you give us a list of benefits to what you felt or what other people have said that they felt just by simply practicing this meditation consistently for, a couple weeks?
I have a story to go with that. So there was a gentleman, he's from New York. He was a big, kind of rough guy, Navy background, kind of a real dude. And he said, okay, I just have something to say. We're like, what's going on with him? He's got an announcement at the Twin Hearts. He goes, I got into a little car accident on the freeway, and we both had to pull over. And I was watching my New York behavior not be present. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I made sure the other person was okay. I was kind. He said, I didn't even recognize myself. I had to sit in the car and feel some feelings and then realize it's because of the practicing of Twin Hearts that my personality, my negative, rough edge personality has changed for the better because of the Twin Hearts meditation.
Mm. And what a better example in such a high stress, situation like that where it's most people would lose their cool. So yeah, really, really thank you for sharing that example. And again, there's so many different examples, as we know, and especially with what you're mentioning about the practical aspect, Dr. Lentini, is that aspect of like, okay, I'm living life, but how does this affect my life? And that's a perfect situation. Like most people would flip out and make the situation even worse, right? Emotions and thoughts, things like that in such a situation. But, kind of grounding it back as the external practical aspect that you mentioned, we also know that the benefits of meditation on Twin Hearts goes deeper too. And there's been research on it. So I know on the top of my head, there was a study that with meditation on Twin Hearts with novice practitioners, new people, and then with people that are experienced. And they showed really compelling differences in their brain activity and just showing how uh, much more emotionally resilient the experienced practitioners were in certain pathways in the brain that reflect this emotional resilience that you've mentioned. So I'm just connecting it there because that's such a great example of, again, just highlighting the benefits of this practice as well.
Yeah, and then scientifically speaking, right? Because I study quantum physics, metaphysics, and then we end up kind of cross-culturing with the neuro programming and the benefits there, how our brain and our body affect each other. When we're in homeostasis, it's that fight or flight is gone, so we're in peace. They call it rest and digest. When we're in the Twin Hearts meditation, we're in a state of peace, and our brain waves drops. We even get into delta and some theta during the ohms. So when we are spending time and energy in peace, and that is so much more enjoyable than the normal stress, our we have a choice. We're giving ourselves a choice when we do the Twin Hearts regularly. Mm. So in between life and in between moments, we go like, oh, You know what? I'm just going to go for peace. I'm going to go over here and stay with peace because this feels so much nicer. So anytime during the day when we have a choice, we have a reference and a foundation. The more time we spend here, and when you do the Twin Hearts in group, you tend to be friends with those people because you're in the same kind of place. So now you're talking, how you doing, what's going on. So we have more peaceful conversations and more
Hmm.
positive conversations. So our system starts leaning towards that choice, and we spend more time and energy there. When we're in the meditation, we're opening our brain. We're not so resistant, like, what is this? And who's trying to trick me? And, I'm so suspicious. That kind of melts away because after we've listened to the meditation, we're like, oh, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, yeah, I like feeling sweetness. So then our brains is saying, yes, 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 yes. We're super receptive, and he's doing hypnotic suggestion, if you will, if a third party scientist like, oh, he's programming. Yeah, go ahead and program forgiveness and loving kindness. Put that in there. And then when he says, remember a happy event, how many times do we have memories, repeated memories of trauma events, right? Oh, every time it rains, or every time I hear this, or every time this happens, or every time someone raises their voice, or trigger, trigger, trigger. But Master Cho is like, remember a happy moment.
Hmm. Hmm.
Remember
Yeah.
this happy moment.
That's
And then when
that's
we're,
beautiful, and I want to just interrupt you there. Just so I want to have the audience make sure we start on that piece with the Twin Hearts meditation. But thank you for sharing that, Dr. Ursula. Just because I want everyone to have a clear start point for the meditation itself. But
okay,
what you're explaining is amazing because again, it's what is taught
I
in the
get so
meditation
excited.
itself. Yeah, yeah, no, no, I can see it. I can see it, but we'll definitely touch on that. But you mentioned your doctorate, right? So you mentioned how having that background validates a lot of the things that you've experienced, what other people experience. Can you just give us a little short snippet of that, and then we'll jump right into the meditation itself?
Yeah, so I've been studying metaphysics since I was 18 years old. And then formal training. I'm a minister, ordained after 8 years. Quite extensive in the metaphysical realm. When I came upon pranic healing, it was the application of metaphysics that I really was like, oh my God, now I can actually use what I know about the laws and principles of what's going on in the universe. And then recently I got a doctorate in advanced consciousness studies. So what that is, it's from Emerson Institute, and it's quantum physics, metaphysics, and spirituality intersection. So when I look at the meditation, experience the meditation, I'm coming from that point of view, that reference to, see and understand what
Mm.
he has done with the structure of the meditation.
Mm. That is such a cool combination, Dr. Lentini. I mean, quantum physics, metaphysics, and spirituality. I feel like that's those three areas we could spend hours talking about it, but um, which will help us guide the conversation today because with your background and your professional experience, just kind of outlining the meditation for everyone will really help them just identify but ground the practice itself with the benefits. So let's jump right into it. So why is it called meditation on twin hearts?
We're activating our heart chakra and our crown chakra. The heart chakra is our relationship with ourself. So when I do the internal family systems and all the subconscious work, we're always stressed out about everything outside, but really the work is always inside. And I talk often about the relationship we're having with ourselves. People don't even realize we're having a relationship with ourselves. And guess who's there till the day you die, right? So getting to know ourselves, and especially getting to love ourselves, because that's not the conclusion that most people have drawn about themselves. So this meditation is inviting us to love ourselves without saying it that way. The heart chakra is also a relationship with other family, colleagues, the world, the community. The crown chakra is our relationship with the divine. And the beauty of Master Choa's work is he invites all religions. And even people who they don't believe in God at all. Good. Come on over here. We got something for you. So if somebody, so I just taught pranic healing class, and I had 3 ladies from the Judaic traditions, and they were very comfortable with everything, and they're observant. So they're quite strict about what's okay and what's not okay. And they took in the entire pranic healing class in a very receptive way, and they were able to integrate their teaching with this teaching.
That's wonderful. And speaks to the universal teachings and almost integrative approach, that we talk about in medicine, right? You want to have a holistic viewpoint and help the body in all different ways in all different aspects. And this meditation itself is so beautiful because you literally can practice it no matter what type of spiritual, faith, religious practice you are, because it is universal. Like you said, mentioning the heart center and the crown center being the love for yourself, but the crown being the love for everyone. And it's a beautiful meditation because that is where the magic happens. So, can you dive a little bit deeper, Dr. Lentini, and talk about the heart center itself? And I know that this might scare some people or surprise some people, but there is what's called a being, a love being in the heart. And how does that connect to the meditation itself?
Right. Also, that you just had mentioned the integration. When Master Choa is integrating the heart and the crown together, he's saying, take your humanness and connect it with your spirituality, and bring your spirituality into your humanness and share it. Because sometimes we're like, oh, it's Sunday, I'm doing my religious practice, and then that's kind of it. But all religion, but we don't say it so much, but it's like, come on, get these two tied together and activated, and let the crown chakra influence the heart chakra and let it shine, right? Let our relationship with the divine shine through our relationship with ourselves and others. So when you're saying the being inside the heart, so when I was taking pranic healing classes, we would often meet at a meditation center, and they were doing a different kind of meditation. There was a poster on the wall of a big Buddha, and he had little Buddhas all over him in this picture. And I kept asking, like, and no one knew what that thing was. And I said, and finally a teacher's like, oh yes, in that tradition, they believe that there's Buddhas in every part of the body and doing little jobs of every kind of thing. And I said, oh, that's interesting. So in the liver, there's Buddhas in there, and they're doing liver things. And in, the elbow, there's a Buddha. So in pranic healing class, we teach that there are 11 major chakras and minor chakras and mini chakras. Within the chakra, there is an energy field and an intelligence. So within the physical heart, those cells in the heart, they're doing heart functions. They're still a cellular structure like everywhere else, but they're a heart cell. So there's a consciousness in every cell. That's why it's alive. So when we have a collection of cells doing a similar job, it becomes a frequency. So in each chakra, those cells know, like, hey, my job is the heart chakra. My job is relationship. My job is, mending broken hearts. My job is this. So because it is an agreement within those cells, there is a identity, there is a pulse, there is a frequency, there is an expression. So he's saying there's a being inside your heart. Connect with that aliveness, if you will. So it's against connecting, right? Connection, a deeper connection. Mm-hmm. So when I first started, I was like, who do I love so, so much? And I imagined that they were in my heart. Master Choa and this lady who I really loved at church. She hugged everybody with so much love. She was a perfect example of true love. And I had them in my heart. So I was like, I don't know about this being stuff, but I'm going to put people who I really feel are important in my heart. So then I would hug those people. And then I realized oh, this is really sacred. And then I put my higher self in there.
Mhm.
So you can really use your imagination to interpret what is the being inside your heart. But
Mhm.
those are my thoughts.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. I think that sometimes I think about that myself, like, oh, there's a being inside my heart. I thought I was just alone, right? I thought it was just myself, me, myself, and I. But again, I think what we're saying here and what you're saying, Dr. Lentini, is again, there is that connection aspect, right? And humans are social creatures, and the obvious connections is with other people, but we can make that connection even in meditation, and that's part of why twin hearts is so powerful. Because the first step is you think of a happy moment, like you mentioned. You think of a happy moment for your heart, and you think of a happy moment for your crown. And there's an key understanding on why we activate the heart first and then the crown second. Can you explain why we do that activation, heart first and then crown second?
Yes. Like I was saying about the trauma, right? So if the trauma response, like, oh, that time that thing happened, and then PTSD, that's a trauma response. They're like, oh, look, check, check, check. There's a list of when you're having a traumatic response experience. So Master Choa is, hey, go ahead and push these chemicals instead. So when we think of a happy moment, we think of it, we see it, but immediately we feel it because it's delicious. So then we're feeling that, oh, yeah, most happy moments are going to include another person. So now he's tying the connection, but he's changing our chakra because when a chakra is open, it's more receptive. When we're thinking of a happy thing, you can watch the brain, it's going to fire chemicals. And now we're putting our body, our physical body, into a relaxed, happy state. We're activating the dopamine, the serotonin, all of those things. And we're like, yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, I'm creating this happy, experiencing this happy moment again. So we're recreating it, we're experiencing it, we're becoming it. And our body, remember that leaning thing I was saying? We're depositing more weights on that scale
Mm.
every time we do that. So now when we're full of love here with other people, because that's our daily experience, then we activate the crown, which is our spiritual connection. And then we're like, wow, we're doing something familiar and then something sacred.
Mm. Beautiful. And I would just add to that, thank you for that wonderful explanation, Dr. Lantini, is that connection aspect. As you mentioned, you're bringing the nervous system as if you were in that state without having physically that state being in front of you, right? And that's the power of the mind-body connection. And something I wanted to just also add in is that we activate the heart first, so the crown gets more activated as well. So that's what Master Choa says is the key to opening the crown. Again, the crown is our spiritual connection, the connection to divine intuition, divine love, divine light, is through the heart first. As you've mentioned so wonderfully, thinking of a happy moment with a loved one or a teacher or someone special. So that's the first part of the meditation. The second part is where we go through the prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi. So a lot of people will be like, "Oh, I thought it was, universal. Why do you have a prayer by a saint?" Right? So a lot of people will get a certain misconception of this idea. So can you explain why we do the prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi after doing that heart crown activation?
Saint Francis was known as a very kind-hearted being. He was known for his connection with the earth, with animals. He was a gentle person. He wasn't walking around, hey, everybody, follow this religion. He was being an example of loving kindness. And if you look at the formula, scientifically speaking, of the prayer, he's breaking down universal problems that every human being seems to go through. So it is a very relatable prayer. And it's not talking about all this esoteric stuff. It's talking about sadness, hatred. It's talking about all the things that everybody kind of feels. And this meditation is one of the only meditations that I personally have come across that is inviting our emotions into a state of meditation. Meditation in general should be to run away from all the emotions as far as possible, because emotions have a lot of hooks on them, right? A lot of chemical addictions on them. I always want to be happy, or, oh, I'm depressed because I'm having all the negative emotions. So it's a lot of drama around the emotions. But the way this meditation is doing, and the prayer specifically, it's bringing one in. It's just saying the name, and it's giving us the opposite, the antidote. So it's saying, okay, you got this one. Isn't this one better? And you flip it. And when he's saying, like, oh, hatred, for me, I'm encouraging us, feel the hatred. Because if I got any hatred inside of me, I don't want it in there. You know what? Feel the hatred. There's hatred. Get it off of me. And this is a great opportunity for me not to get triggered and to just take it and, like, here, let's get rid of this. I don't want it. I don't want anyone else to have it. Let's just disintegrate it with all this laser focus that we're doing right now.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for sharing that, Dr. Lentini. And I just wanted to kind of reiterate, because the prayer is universal, and it's universal because we're talking about these emotions and these attachments to certain things that can be very reactionary. And like you've mentioned, where there's hatred, let us sow love, right? So that's one thing out, and we're taking something in, right? But we're also, what I realize is we forgot to bring this up, is we think of the earth in the size of a small ball. So that's on me. But this prayer is an act of service, as you mentioned in the very beginning, mentioning why this is a service-based meditation is we think of the earth in the size of a small ball, and we are the channels for these positive emotions that are coming through. So going back, we activate the heart, activate the crown, we activate that channel, and the spiritual energy flows through us like a hose. And like you mentioned, there's certain things we transmute and we let go, but also bless the earth for that same process. So where there's hatred, let us sow love. Where there's injury, let us sow pardon and forgiveness. Can you help us go through the next couple of stanzas in that prayer? Because I think it helps us understand why, again, this is so universal, despite being a prayer by a saint.
Right. And then back to we could talk for an hour, back to the planet. We think like, oh, we're this tiny and the planet's gigantic and there's so many people. But when he's like, imagine the earth is a small ball. So that's that. And I'm out here. I'm not so insignificant all of a sudden. I'm in the world of angels and spiritual beings. That's who lives outside the planet when the planet's so tiny, not little old me. So I am quantum traveling into a gigantic version of what I'm connected to in order to massively influence this tiny little blue planet. So in the forgiveness piece, the first thing he says is understanding, because if there's a conflict and I'm upset about something, more than likely, back into the emotional work that I do, that thing is just a trigger of something I already have. So if I'm like, oh, how dare they? I'm offended. Okay, well, you are offended. What's the offense? And what got triggered? Oh, let me come into a place of understanding. That's the first thing he says. So if I can understand the situation from a better point of view, there's no need to forget. Because if it's me, then I'm going like this. If it's that person, then I got to get curious. Why is that person behaving that way? What happened to them to make them turn into a jerk? Oh, no wonder. There's nothing to forgive because I can understand it all. And then he talks about then there's harmony. So he's very, as you know, practical and logical in his approach to everything. So when we say forgiveness, because when I have forgiveness and I don't have grievances, guess what? I'm in flow state. I'm in harmony. I have more access to love, kindness, consideration, compassion, all of that stuff.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's a very well explained, because it brings again the practical approach of what you're saying and putting it into practice. And like you said, just being the channel, right? And in quantum physics, as you know, if you believe in something, you are there and you are doing it, right? So, and this is why the big part that I apologize, I forgot to mention is you raise your hands at chest level and you project this spiritual energy, this channel, this pipeline, and you're blessing Mother Earth. And the spiritual energy that comes down that you're invoking for love, forgiveness, hope, faith, light, and joy, you are the channel first, and then you pass on to others, which is why this is a surface meditation, but it starts with yourself, right? As you mentioned, Dr. Lentini, with your experiences and emotional resilience, you yourself benefit from this practice, from this prayer, because all these things get transformed in your own life, in your own, you know, emotional body, mental bodies, all these thoughts and emotions that get flushed out, as some people say, when you do this practice, because we understand emotions are energy, right? Our thoughts are also energy. So you are literally becoming a conduit for this energy pathway to come out of you, but also to bless Earth. So that is the core aspect, I would say, of meditation on Twin Hearts, is where we bring our hands at chest level and then you bless the Earth through this prayer. So now, with that being said, can you guide us to the next part after we're done blessing the earth through this prayer?
Yeah. So I don't know if you're a music loving person, but he brings us through like a build up. He's like, okay, here's this, and then here's this piece, and then here's this piece, and then here's this piece. And then our hands are up, blessing the planet. And then all of a sudden he gives us a bunch of prompts. So he's like, okay, do this and do that and do that, and then focus this and simultaneously focus this. And there's like so many prompts. You're like, oh my God. And then any monkey mind going on in the background is like, oh, she's busy now. I can't even interrupt. There's too many things going on. So there's this like buildup of energy, prompts, things to focus on, things to do simultaneously like this. And then he's like, okay, put your hands down, and then you're physically like, oh, I'm off the hook. I don't have to work, like this is physical labor kind of thing. I'm intentionally, I'm work. I don't have to work. It's my turn to receive. This meditation is constantly energizing, cleansing, right? So like hatred, that's cleansing, love, energizing. So there's so much circulation going on. The energy's coming down, and as we're channels, think of it as a tube, and anything along the sides that are getting stuck, just like pranic healing, we're taking them out. So we're becoming a bigger and bigger channel the more we do the meditation. And we're also on the planet. So we're like, it's a double blessing, double, triple blessing. So he does all this like build up, like a music, like na 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 na, like a EDMR, and then you build, and then they call it a drop in the music, and then you're like, ah, and then you really start dancing. So he does all of this buildup, put your hands down, and now we're in the next layer of the meditation. We're going deeper into alpha, delta. We're going deeper, deeper, deeper. So people are like, oh, silent meditation is the hardest one. Now our whole system is like, I need silence. There's so many things going on. Please just let me be quiet right now. We're begging for silence at this point, right? Because it's so hard to focus on all these things at the same time. So then he starts chanting the ohms. And he's like, follow along, focus on the space, the in between there. So we're like focusing. And also what's great about this meditation is so many meditations take us out. You just disappear and you float around, and then you come back. He's like, no, the point of pranic healing is to bring this divine energy into the physical being and make this more vital, more healthy, more strong. So he's constantly bringing it in, which is hard because this is dense. That stuff is not dense. That stuff is easy. You run away and go float around up there. Come on, folks. Let's bring it in. Why do you think we have physical bodies? We could all be ghosts right now. That's easier. No, but we get to live here. So he's saying, bring it in. So we're doing all this work here in the ohms, and the ohms are washing over us. They actually change our physical state. They're a currency. They're an influence, and we're in a place of surrender because we're in a place of bliss and joy. And then he brings us through this intensity of Om. We're getting washed and cleansed, and the last bits of things are coming off. And then we drop another drop, musical drop, another drop into, and it's like 2.5 minutes. But the more you do it, it's 3 seconds, it's 10 minutes. I don't know where I was. Wait, where am I? Who am I? Why am I? We can go so far in just that little piece of silence he's giving us. So if you sat down and tried to do 2 minutes of silent meditation, good luck. In this one, amount of connection to that silence. And I call it the silence within, because it's not out there, it's in here. I experience it in here, into my physical body. And that's the peak. I call it the peak of the meditation.
Yeah, I love that analogy. I don't think I've heard of that described before. It's like you said, it's like an EDM song, and you build up to the drop, which is literally a drop because there's silence, complete silence, as we know, between the ohms, but even after the ohm. And as we know, the mantra Om is a universal mantra chant. And I think you mentioned to me in email, Dr. Lentini, that there's so many benefits to chanting mantras and chanting Om, with helping with lower stress, reduced inflammation, right? Improved parasympathetic activation, which means better rest and digest and recovery. So, and what's really the cool part, I think, what I'm hearing from what you mentioned is the silence is not something we think about, but it is very important because it's towards the end. And a lot of people think of meditation, oh, you're just meditating on the silence, right? But what does that really mean? And when you meditate on the silence, that is where, as we have been taught and what we've experienced for ourselves, the downpour of energy actually increases. It's not with the act of chanting the mantra Om. It's not with the act of doing the, you know, putting your hands in prayer and blessing the earth. That silence is when most of the energy comes down, which is very interesting because I liken it to the analogy of like having, your water, like the waves of your mind is still. So when it's still, you can see through all the way to the bottom of the ocean. And that clarity is conductivity, as we know. And that's when the energy pours through because there's no resistance. So I love that explanation. And after we do the silence, as you mentioned, it's about 2.5 minutes, we come out of it. Okay. Can you explain the last step when we come out of the silence?
So when he is telling us, hatred, sadness, let's sort these things out. Let's not do them anymore. Look, instead of that, try this. Come on to do this. So it's like all the suffering, let's just keep moving it towards peace and harmony. Let's just keep doing this. Come on this way, come on this way. And then we go through this transformational experience where we're not so human. We're not so tendency. We're not so, not so like judgment and what's going on and who's looking at me. And all of that's gone now. And then we go into this place of bliss and harmony. And then he's like, okay, wiggle your fingers. See, come back into your body, right? Because he knows we were in a state beyond the physical. So he's like, bring that. As soon as he starts talking, he's like, bring it in, soak it in. Like, don't separate that. Own it. Move your fingers. Come on in. And now he's saying, and I wrote this down because I wanted to share it. So here we are in a state of connection, in a state like babies. They're not so thinking. They're being. They're not even feeling because they don't know all the things yet. They're being. So we're in this beingness state of consciousness. And now he's saying, what if all that stuff that you were working on got sorted out? Now, how shall we live? This is how I'm seeing it, right? And what's he talking about? Feed the whole earth with love and light, bless with divine sweetness. Like if everything was sorted out, what if we were all sweet? What if we were all joyful? What if we had more warmness, tenderness? Dr. Jason, when in life do we talk about tenderness? We all crave it and want it. Yes, it's natural state. Yes, when you feel safe, you can be tender. I don't hear the word tenderness anywhere else. And he's saying, come on, as you're bringing back from the state of consciousness of oneness, bring in tenderness. If all that stuff got sorted out, we could live in a place of tenderness. Inner healing. So this is where the suggestive places are coming. So we're knowing like inner healing. Yes, of course. Inner beauty, divine bliss, divine oneness with all. You see how he does? It's really, really beautiful, because then we're like, yes, of course, because that's connected to where I was in the silence, and that's our natural state. When we're coming in as a baby, that's our most natural state. We're naked, we're vulnerable, we're enjoying what's around.
Hmm. Yeah, very, very poetic there. I don't think I've heard the word tenderness used at all, if ever, even in the news and media and what we're reading. But yeah, you bring up a great point. It's really something that a lot of people will, it'll just go over their head, because it's like, it's something so airy fairy, it's so bubbly. It's not really practical, but we are putting this into practice, as we know, and meditation is a practice. And this specific meditation, we apply all those themes that you've mentioned into our bodies, resetting our nervous system and allowing ourselves to practice being givers, to being servers of this work. And at the end of the meditation, like you mentioned, after going through all those stanzas of the prayer, right, and going through the mantra Om, right, and being that channel, receiving that energy and giving that energy, once we come out of the silence, that's when we release the excess energy, which is a pranic healing principle, as we know, because you don't over energize someone. You want to make sure they're balanced. So we release the excess energy, we ground ourselves, and then we come out of the meditation. And something important that I omitted is the invocation. So before we start the meditation, we invoke, and then after the meditation, we invoke. So to touch on that now, coming towards the end of the meditation, Dr. Lentini, can you describe the importance and the impact of doing the invocation before and after the meditation itself?
Okay, I'm going to bring in my references from other teachings as well. When we're in the 3D, when we're in this earthly realm, there are bad people out there, and we have to be protective of ourselves. I'm an innocent, naive person, and I'll stay that way rather than walking around suspicious and aggressive and defensive and all of that stuff. That's a choice, and that's also a default because of culture and conditions and events. But if I can choose that I am always safe, that I'm always in a place of love, then I'm going to experience more of that. When we're going into other realms of dimensions of reality, such as these, or other states in our brain, which we can measure. But to me, we're going into different brainwave states, but we're also going into other dimensions. Like I said, we're, in a place where we're bigger than the planet. We have to be careful. We don't know who's out there. We have not been taught who's out there. So he's saying, okay, everybody who's good, come on in. We're doing something very powerful, and we need the A team with us. So he's saying himself, because he's the teacher of all of this, so he knows where everything is and how it's all set up. So he's like, bring me in. I'm here to help. And again, to the different religions, if you believe in Jesus, bring Jesus. If you believe in Allah, bring Allah. If you believe everybody, bring your grandma, bring whoever you know, and all the great ones. So if we have a protection, a legion of angels and spiritual helpers around us when we're doing this sweet thing for ourselves and our friends and our family and the planet, that's a lot of energy. And we don't want any bad juju around here. And then if bad juju's not going to even come, they're going to be like, oh, I'm not going to that house. No, no one's going to listen to my stories. No one's going to be scared about me. So all anything negative, anything that's not loving kindness is not allowed, is couldn't even begin to come in here. So he's saying, let me create a really protective space and let me plug in to all of the highest frequencies, all of the blessings, all things that are available to us. Let us resource that, access that, so we can really bring it on. It's like, let me turn on all the lights in the house. And then we say thank you at the end, just like when we do a pranic healing treatment on somebody. We bring in all of that divine energy to be guided, protected, helped. And then we say, oh, thank you so much for being with us during this lovely experience we've created. You know, we really, really appreciate you, because whatever we're grateful for energetically, the quantum world and the spiritual world increases. So now we're saying, we're so grateful that you are here with us. That connection increases, and they stay with us in a way that they're available to us. We say thank you, and then they, kind of go away, but we're still feeling very connected. But in our act of gratitude, it's also humbling, because we don't want to be like, I'm blessing the planet. You're invited to bless the planet. He even says the word humbly. We humbly invoke for.
Beautiful. And like you said, it's a humility part, right? We're asking for all this divine help. And there's a lot of great spiritual beings and spiritual teachers that, we call for, and why not, right? If they're there to help us and they're available, why wouldn't you call the A team, as you've mentioned it? But it is a humble act because, again, the outcome is service. Even though, again, a lot of people do meditation for their own stress, for their own pain, anxiety. That's what it starts with. But people that stay doing Twin Hearts, it's really not about them. It's about doing the service, doing the work, and being connected and plugged into this giant reservoir of energy, right? And like you mentioned, there's the protection that comes with it, there's the guidance, right? And there's just so many beautiful things that happen. But what I find, it's like that's just a fraction, right? What you see and experience is just a fraction of what actually happens,
I
right?
agree.
And the
I agree.
magnitude of the blessings that you don't even know about is incredible. And again, I'm only hypothesizing it because there's just, as you know, with quantum physics, and there's so many things that is happening, but we are just a tiny sliver of that experience. So
And that
and
awareness,
that
right?
awareness,
and,
yeah.
and i and I make sure I want to say that this meditation in Master Choa's brilliance, this is a silent meditation, it's a chanting meditation, it's a guided meditation, it's a healing meditation, it's a meditation with focus and intention. We do the exercises before, which is another releasing meditation. We open our physical body and the channels and clear out, our inability to sit still by doing that. So he's really designed it to be a full experience, because there's so many meditation types within this one little meditation.
Yeah. Yeah. It is really, again, structured and multifactorial, like you said, and it really complements all different areas. And it's great. It's great because it's so simple, even though there's a lot of steps. But once you practice it, it's really simple and it produces amazing, amazing results. So thank you so much, Dr. Lentini. I'm sure we can talk for another couple hours on this because there's just so many deeper insights that we can continue exploring. But for the audience, if they want to reach out to you, if they're interested in your work, how can the audience find you?
All my social media, including my website, is simply ursulalentini.com. And then from there, I lead the meditation weekly on Tuesdays for many years now, in person and online. And I teach the Pranic Healing Level 1. I am doing internal family system, which is a very deep subconscious work. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I will leave all that information and links down below the video and the podcast for those listening to audio. And the last question I leave off all my guest speakers, Dr. Lentini. If you were to go back in time and you were this spiritual helper for 10-year-old Ursula Lentini. What small piece of advice would you give your younger version of yourself?
It's okay to love yourself, I think would be the biggest one. No one teaches that to the kids that I know of. And just to say it's okay to love yourself, you're going to be your best friend for the rest of your life. Might as well get to know yourself and like yourself.
Mm. Well said. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Lentini. It's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your insights, and your journey into this amazing healing meditation and spiritual system, and especially with your background. It's just so amazing to see like professionals like you just supporting this work and bringing it to many other people. I'm sure you've helped so many other people with this conversation as well, and motivated them to try meditation on twin hearts for themselves. And thank you for being an inspiration to me, because you just speaking with so much love and flamboyance and emotions, and that's part of what I'm trying to work on with my own inner child and healing and emotions. And I know that is all a journey for all of us, but it's lovely to see you loving yourself and that being in practice, even just seeing that and communicating that with you on this podcast. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this episode of the podcast. Again, if you're interested in Dr. Lentini's work, it's linked down below. And feel free to leave a like, comment, and rating. And if you've really enjoyed this episode with Dr. Lentini, consider subscribing to support the production of the podcast to bring more amazing guest speakers like Dr. Lentini here. So thank you, Dr. Lentini. That's all for today. Take care, and we will see you on the next episode.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.